experience of being a child in an abusive household growing up, that child, part of the tragedy of it is, as a child, they need their parents to survive, right? Children need their parents to survive, and they're looking to them for everything. Like these are their gods for all they know. This is who they're take care of them, who they're born to. And being in a situation where they're like abused or shamed or repressed or traumatized in one way or another, children don't know what's happening or what to do. They internalize that stuff, and so it feels very helpless. And so as a traumatized child, they are kind of looking to the outside world. And I can remember feeling that way of like, who's going to help me, who's going to save me? You are a victim as a child in that situation. You feel like a victim, and I think as you grow up, you kind of are still looking for someone to save you or something outside yourself to make you feel better, to give you that sense of wholeness and love that you always wanted. But a lot of times that child, as they grow up, don't even know that's what they're looking for. They're just looking to feel good. But what it takes you to realize to go through recovery is that only you can do that for you. Only you can save you. Right? Okay. Other people can help you along the way, like being someone's therapist or being a friend or being a supportive, voice. I can help people through their journey, but only they can truly save themselves from that feeling of emptiness and pain inside, which is, often rooted in that those traumatic experiences in the past.
When it comes to this posting of a traumatized child, and you touching on your experience as you were growing up, when a person recognizes that they were traumatized or the trauma of their childhood, what is there about you that you see that helped you in recognizing any dysfunction that you were exposed to as a child? What helped you?
Yeah, that's a good question too, because I feel like there's not one simple answer. So I can tell you what helped me, but it might not be the same thing that helps everybody. For me, it was almost coming to a point of rock bottom. And I don't know if you've heard, those of you in the addiction world or addiction recovery world have heard of, like, to come to a point of change, some people have to hit rock bottom, and sometimes they go to jail, and sometimes they're this or that. So with me, it was really an emotional rock bottom of like dysfunctional relationships and feeling depressed and anxious and so just so far gone. Like, it was like being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it came to that moment for me that I think I was ready to open my eyes. And something came to me as clear as day. It was it was a term. It was fear of intimacy. And it just came in my head one day. And ironically, it was my birthday, which is ironically because it was kind of a day of rebirth for me. It was this term, fear of intimacy. So I Googled it, and up came all this information on dysfunctional families and adult children of abusive families. And I think I could have read it before, and I don't know if it would have hit me as hard. But in that moment, it literally opened my eyes to everything. And that for me was the beginning point of recovery. But I don't know if it happens always for everyone in that way. My thought is whatever I can do as a therapist, as a friend, is when I'm speaking to help bring self-awareness and just awareness in general to this information about, childhood trauma, developmental trauma, complex trauma, which shows itself as codependency and abusive relationships and addiction and low self-worth. If I can help people connect the dots so that they maybe can open their eyes to seeing some of it in themselves, that is like a seed in planting through this like healing journey. Like, it's planting a seed. And if for some people it does what I had happen to me and it opens their eyes all at once, well then great. But I don't know if that's always the way it goes,
This eye-opening experience that you went through.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Let's linger there for a moment. This eye-opening experience took place. Describe it emotionally. So if someone is approaching that, they're gonna end up going through it. What was it like for you emotionally on that day with this eye-opening experience that you had this challenge or struggle with fear of intimacy. This fear of intimacy was something that was a part of your life. Emotionally, what was that like when your eyes opened up, girl? Yeah. They popped open. What happened?
They sure did.
What was it like emotionally?
Yeah, let me say, I want to note one thing first. So fear of intimacy, I think, encompassed this huge thing because I don't know if you've heard of fear of intimacy as an into me you see. So having someone look at the real me. So fear of intimacy as an into me you see. So I'm showing someone intimacy. A lot of times we think of intimacy as sexual intimacy, but intimacy is like showing someone who I really am and me looking at who I really am. And at that point in my life, I had no idea who I was, no idea, because I wasn't afforded the opportunity to develop it. And then the parts of it that came out were shamed so much that I shoved them down and just tried to mold myself into everyone around me. So, it was such a mix of emotion. And I've written about this many times. And in the book I'm working on, I'm writing about it again. And if I had to simplify it, I will always say it's bittersweet. It was so bittersweet. And it was a mix of positive and negative, or good and bad emotions. I don't want to call them good and bad or positive, negative, because emotions are just emotions. They're all human. But, it was this like unbelievable sense of like freedom and like everything made sense. Like for so long I lived feeling helpless and hopeless and like, why am I like this? Why am I depressed? Why do I have these patterns? Why do I have these relationships? Why do I have this? Why is everything so miserable for me? It was like, like everything made sense.
No. Gotta do that again. Do it again. All right, that was good. I just love that. No, because that is what you experienced emotionally. If you could put a sound to it, was what you just did.
Well,
it was freeing. Wait, right, but it was freeing. But was it scary?
It was it was scary.
I'm just curious. Let me
tell you the whole experience.
Wait, before you do that, Stephanie, so you know where I'm kind of going. Let me just tell you ahead of time instead of just taking this walk together. I'll tell you where I'm headed.
Okay.
There are people that write me and they have this experience and they're trying to put words to it. They need to know that they're not alone and there are other people that have experienced it also ahead of them. And that you can shed light and help them walk through this journey. So please talk more about the emotion of this light bulb moment that happened.
Well, first of all, I love that people are writing, telling you that. That's really inspirational and one of those things that makes my heart full because I love to hear that. And I guess, it's not just it's not only all great.
Right.
There is that freedom in it, but it was also very scary, but I think more than anything for me, it was unbelievably sad. And I still feel sad sometimes, like grief. I felt grief.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, because I suddenly realized that the life that I don't want to say was supposed to have or what a normal childhood was, I never got. Like it was horrible. Having to come to the realization of the abuse that I experienced and the repression that I experienced and the lack of support or the lack of emotional, support and growth and all of that. And really like looking at it and day by day as I was walking down this path, recognizing like, oh my God, no, that happened to me. I remember that. Or my dad or mom or whatever used to say that all the time. And then understanding the internalized message behind it and how it affected me and thinking of myself as like this sad, hurt child that was scared and alone it just seems that part is really sad. It's really sad. It's hard to look at. You have to grieve the loss of a childhood that you'll never have. And then I think, I don't know, for me, the fear was there, but it was a secondary emotion to the grief. And then also I overcame the fear because I was so excited to understand finally and put the pieces together. And then it
all started to make sense.
I get to be me. I don't even know who I am, but that's awesome. Like, I can't wait to do that. So, yeah.
So was there a moment where it started to seem to you as a background of a traumatized child or a childhood that delved in dysfunction, did it kind of seem to you that all of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, are you telling me I've got the power? Are you telling me that all this time I'm being molded by everybody else in situations and circumstances and people and stuff around me, but I get to have the steering wheel and drive it, and I've had it all along, except I wasn't taught that I had it. Somebody else was steering me around. Was it?
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
like
you're hitting it right on the nose. And I think that, again, that's another good question. And so much that how you're describing it, I used to have dreams all the time of someone else driving me and feeling very helpless and out of control. And in dream interpretation world, they talk about when someone else is driving a car that you're in, you feel like someone else is in control of your life. So very much so. But I have to say too, though, one of the biggest things that comes out of being an adult child of a dysfunctional family, meaning as a child you grew up with this dysfunction, but you're an adult now, is this this low sense of self-worth and lack of confidence. And so it's taken me a long time to want to take the steering wheel because it's scary and you don't think you can. And you think, because you know, you've been trained and internalized, like, okay, well, I'm free, but do I want to be? No, you hold on to the steering wheel. Like, that's a lot of responsibility. And then there's fear of being shamed or being judged, because we were judged and shamed so much in childhood that, like, if we were to take the wheel and go be ourselves and someone was to judge us or laugh at us or something, would we be able to handle that at that point in our life? Because often we're kind of fragile, and it takes some work on building up your self-confidence and your sense of self-efficacy and with safe people, I think, to want to do that. So I don't think it was as easy of like, yeah, I got the power, but I do feel that now. And I've felt it more and more in the last year, because I mean, this is an ongoing thing, right? But to not be scared of putting myself out there,
So no overnight answers. No overnight answers. You have to put yourself out there. You have to find safe people. So that means you have to maybe get rid of, distance, have no contact with the people that were not safe anymore.
Yeah. And that's something you learn too, because if you've lived your whole life around people that maybe don't treat you well, or people with poor boundaries, or people who aren't healthy people, you don't recognize them that way. You just think those are normal people.
Those are your people, and they're just like in your life. You're like, oh, well, this person, we eat together and they buy me gifts, and so they must be safe. In actuality, dun, 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 dun,
right. Well, and I always think of it too as like, you don't have someone who's really dysfunctional and then someone who's really healthy just bond together and make like let's be friends, or let's be in a relationship together. Typically, people kind of have the same level of awareness or same level of stuff going on when they're in a relationship. And that's because you have the same idea of what's acceptable. Like, if I think it's okay, if I let people walk on me or abuse me, and then there's someone who's abusive, it's kind of like we both agree that this is acceptable.
This is acceptable.
Right. So, but if I grow and I change, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute,
not acceptable.
Right. Yeah. So then you're up here. Now this person either has to stop abusing you and understand that,
or come up to your level.
It's not going to work out anymore.
It's not going to work. Yeah.
Right. So,
so does that come into play? I mean, there's so much more I want to unpack what we're talking about right now, but does this come into play when it comes to, I mean, you're a certified specialist when it comes to dealing with addiction. So how does some of these elements come into play for many across the board when it comes to addiction? Because if they were traumatized, come from a mismanaged situation. It's easy to say dysfunctional, but there's dysfunction in our imperfect world. But if people come from a background that involves people mismanaging their safety, emotional safety, mismanaging their well-being, and not really educating them about who they are, but instead they just want little robots around them doing what they say until they grow up, and they still want them to be adult robots. Okay.
And it's not always necessarily like that either. Sometimes it's kids that are completely ignored and left to do whatever they want and have no boundaries and
have no boundaries. Right.
It could be the opposite. Yeah.
Or they have miscalculated boundaries. They think they've calculated properly to put up a boundary against somebody that actually they need to let in. and they end up letting in the wrong type of people. But when it comes to addiction, how has this worked out in people's lives when it comes to they're getting these feelings, they've been traumatized, they're going to gravitate to addiction because they keep pushing down the pain?
Yeah, so there's several ways that it's correlated. I did way back in grad school, even I wrote my thesis on the experience of recovery for adult children of alcoholic and dysfunctional families. And it's important to note that and dysfunctional part, because there doesn't need to be alcoholism or addiction in the family for it to have the same effect.
Got it.
So one of the biggest things found in all of the research and all found in the people that I interviewed was addiction. And it didn't, again, need to be addiction that was substance use addiction. It could be addiction to relationships, addiction to the approval of others, addiction to gambling, addiction to shopping, addiction to online, all those things. And I love this question too, because my kind of brand name, I guess, I don't even know what you want to call it, that I came up with, it was called Healing the Whole. And this speaks to this exactly, because as a human being who went through some of this as well, and as a psychologist, I worked with so many clients that told me they felt like they had a hole in their soul or something along that line. They felt this, and I thought, man, that is deep. I feel that, because if you say I feel empty inside, I have a void, but a hole in your soul, that's like the essence of who you are. That's a serious hole. But I knew that feeling. And so what happens when you have trauma in childhood is like you are supposed to develop this sense of self, of who you are. And if that sense doesn't get, if you're not recognizing who you really are as this whole human person, good enough, all of that, then
with potential, with growth potential, with potential to help others,
that's loved,
desired, needed, valued. So that sense of self is tied to many of those aspects and more. If a person doesn't get that,
like something's missing. Yeah, they feel like there's a hole, right? There's something missing. So I think it's a perceived hole, because I think each and every one of us are whole, but we feel like we have a hole inside ourselves, or a void, or an emptiness. And so where addiction comes in is that we are walking around in life trying to stuff this hole so that we can feel better. So we stuff it with drugs, we stuff it with alcohol, we stuff it with shopping, we stuff it with other people, we stuff it with accolades and accomplishments and way to goes, and we stuff it with shopping and distractions and whatever we can. And those things work for a minute, right? They make us feel better for a minute, and then it wears off. And so that's where the addiction comes in. So if you keep reaching outside of yourself, and I'm a hand talker, by the way, I'm Italian, so if you keep reaching outside,
your hands just got 3D, but it didn't scare me. It didn't. You keep going. Good. Keep going. It's good. You're all good. You're all good. Go on, girl. Go on, use your hands. Go on, be Italian on us. Go ahead.
When I watch my recordings back, my hands are all over the place.
No, you're doing good. Good.
Yeah. So, you're trying to fill this hole inside and fill this void. And that's what addiction is. You're taking something outside yourself and trying to fill this so that you can feel better. I mean, there is more to it. There's a physiological component too of being addicted to a substance. But I think in the long run, that's what we're trying to do, to feel better, to feel whole again. When really, going back to that other thing you asked me about, only we can go back and feel that wholeness inside. And we fill it with self-love and really realizing who we really are at our source, which was always good enough and always will be.
But if we stay in the company of people who are thinking just like we are, feeling less than whole, then the addiction becomes a validating part of life and should continue, because if they're feeling the way I feel, we're doing the same thing to cope or try to fill that void, then it makes recovery challenging.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's part of the tragedy of the whole situation. So when you have a child that is in an environment growing up where they are, through the patterns and behaviors and things that are said to them, they are getting the message that who they are is not good enough, or not valuable, or not worthy, or that their feelings don't matter, their thoughts don't matter, who they are doesn't matter, then they internalize that, and they go out into the world with these thought patterns. And these thought patterns, I'm not good enough, whatever, are going to then dictate how someone acts in the world. And that might be shy, or that might be aggressive, or it might be something else. And then that's going to dictate the people that are around them and the experiences they have. So it becomes reinforcing. And we sadly live in this society where things are easily reinforced. So if you already feel like who you are isn't good enough in whatever aspect, maybe you feel like you don't look good enough, well, then you're going to go out into the world and see the media, and it's going to reinforce that for you and say, you are not good, and you're going to believe it because that's already the thoughts that you internalized. So it becomes really hard to break out of that in childhood, in adolescence, in early adulthood, because they don't have the even brain development to kind of see outside that, let alone like a safeguard of people to tell them that isn't true. They're just trying to survive, right? They're just trying to get through. And then these negative, situations and negative self-talk and internalized messages just gets reinforced. So it's part of the tragedy of the whole thing that I think is really sad, because.
And with that comes with constant comparison then, right? So a person talking with this self-talk, that's being generated and fed also by comparing themselves to what they feel is a better product, image, set of circumstances that they see someone else has. So they're going to feel, again, that they're not good enough, reinforcing something that is not true, to the point that they're going to feed the addiction. They're going to kill the recovery. They're going to find it easier to fall off the wagon, as it were. They're going to find it easier to beat themselves up, to gaslight themselves, because that's just become a life pattern. But it doesn't mean it's a reality, right? It's not a reality.
Right. That's, I think, the hardest thing, because, a lot of people say, and I understand, I mean, I think we all struggle with this to a degree. Like, I can tell myself, like, okay, it's not true that I'm not good enough. It's not true that I'm not worthy. But like, to actually believe it and feel it and live it is a different thing. It takes more than just telling myself the opposite in the mirror, right? Just saying, I am good enough. Like, we wish that all just would work instantly. And the way I describe it a lot, and I understood this more when I started working in brain injury and understanding like neuroplasticity, was like, if you have two neurons in your brain, and the first message that you're internalizing about yourself, like your schema of yourself, is like, who I am is not good enough, or doesn't matter, or less than. So that thought pattern is now being reinforced. So now imagine this line is really thick. Now you're trying to add a new thought pattern, like, wait a minute, I am good enough. Well, this one's really thin. And so you're more likely to keep going back to this one because it's so ingrained, right?
Yeah.
And so to pop it over to something new is easier said than done.
It reminds me, you made me think of something. That's like me going to go buy a coffee mug that says I'm the best dad. I'm the number one best dad. No, I've never done that. If I go and buy it, it could mean something to me, but I know I bought it, that it's something I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
But when my daughters buy me a cup that tells me that I'm the number one dad.
Oh, top I love it.
I mean, when they it was fun. No, you just made me think of that when you just said that illustration. I went like, okay, I could go buy this cup. I could buy 20 of them and wake up each day, quote unquote, affirmation, and just say it over and over. But when someone else comes and tells me the two connect together, I really believe it. It becomes tangible to me because it becomes stronger. And the more
you want to know, there's something you're speaking to here too, though. That
I was going to relate it to addiction, in that, a person could sit there and say to themselves, even if they've had a divorce or they feel like they're no good after a divorce, but they could literally say whatever they want to themselves. But when another person sees that quality, because we're associating with people that appreciate us, then it becomes a real thing. But if we keep associating with people who are not thinking like that, and they really think we're just an addict and we're just like them, we're going to keep going back to the wrong thing. We're going to keep going to the bad behavior. We need to have not just personal reinforcement, but we've got to have some good association that reinforces the same thing. That's what I was really going to ask. I wasn't.
Yeah.
This is a poor example. I mean, I just popped into my head.
No. There's several things that are coming up for me when you're saying that, and I think they're related though. So I'm going to try to relate them and say.
Don't mind me. Remember,
what's going through his head.
You're the certified specialist. I'm just here. I'm just the co-host. Go ahead.
Oh, come on. You are a good interviewer, and I appreciate you helping spread this info. So a couple things coming to mind. One is that I love what you're saying about who you're around, because yes, for sure. That makes a difference. However, I want to say it sometimes can be difficult if you're someone who has low self-worth to, like, you tend to like match to the people that are you're at the same level as. So to go around, it's often uncomfortable for people who have low self-worth, even if they want to have high self-worth, to be around other people with high self-worth, because they may compliment them and that may feel uncomfortable, or they may go put themselves out there and do things that are scary socially and that may feel uncomfortable. So it's almost like you have to change from within, and that brings about other people in your life who are at the same kind of level as you, and it tends to pull you away from people who are no longer at that level, and that can be really hard too, especially if they're longtime friends and family members. It can be hard, and as you know, a child coming out of an adult child of a dysfunctional family, we're kind of like trained to feel guilty for everything and not be able to stand up for ourselves and not have not have rights, and just go, oh, I should care more if I'm hurting their feelings than what's good for me. So it can be hard to set those boundaries. But I want to say too, it is important. It is important to set those boundaries, though, is what you're saying, though. Even though it's challenging, that shift from being the shame and the guilt, and I can't speak up and I just need to be quiet and go along, starts to become less every time a person can make little steps of boundaries against what they're accustomed, or the trauma that they've been accustomed to, even if it's generational. They're going to need to set up camp somewhere else. They're going to have to dismantle camp over here and go like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. I'm not doing. Oh, I love that. Oh no, I love that. I love that. I love that. You need a shirt that says that with your face. No, you should have a face. It should be like a cartoon drawing of you going like that, and that should become your hashtag or something. But that's what's got to happen, though, right? They've got to pitch tent somewhere else, because it's not safe pitching tent with that group of people. Yes, and that speaks to the. But that can be challenging, is what you're saying. For sure it can be, because it's something you're not used to doing, and it's like reinforcing now that new belief, right? You're like, I've been going with this belief so long that it's okay to treat me like this, but now I'm gonna step out here and be like, no, that's not okay anymore, and it's scary, and it's like, are they gonna push back, or are they gonna not be, want to be a friend anymore? But this is what I was gonna say. What's more important than words from another person or from yourself is putting the action behind the words. So I can say, I am worthy and my opinions matter all day long, but am I going to go raise my hand in a class I've never raised my hand anymore and give that opinion, even though it's terrifying? So that's what setting a boundary is too. I can say, I care about myself and I deserve to be treated right, but are you going to put the action of setting a boundary that proves to yourself that you are worth being treated right? Because that's the hard part. It's easy to say something, but the hard part is the doing and the changing your behavior. And then those new behaviors are going to reinforce your new beliefs. Like, wait a minute, I am lovable. I am worth while. I should be treated well. And with words, again, one thing my mom told me, and I'll never forget, a while back after I'd started this recovery journey, I was saying how I was so like attached, like being like a people pleaser and an approval seeker. I was so attached to people's opinions of me. And I started to notice that even the good ones that came from good people, it's like I clung to them too closely. Like if someone was like, oh, you're so good at this, or you're so good at that, it's like I clung to it and so even though it was a good person, but I didn't want my sense of self-worth to be tied into other people's opinions of me, good or bad, because as long as it is, you're on this emotional roller coaster of how they feel about you. So how you feel has to be rooted in in how you feel about yourself, no matter who says what about you, you know.
Able to take the compliment and, as it were, kind of like rub it in your hands, but you don't have to rub it all over, because then now they're your air, they're your breath, they're your air.
Yes.
I mean, we don't go to wash our hands and use soap and put it everywhere. It only applies to this moment and that compliment to this moment in time right now. But I'm not going to keep looking for that. I mean, that's like washing your hands with one set of soap in your bathroom, and then that same soap you expect it to be at everybody's house you visit. It's just not going to be. You're not going to get that compliment everywhere you go.
Well, it's like take it that soap, moment, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, everybody. Disclaimer: please do not go and drink soap.
Don't drink soap.
But that's an amazing analogy, though. No, I kind of loved it. That was like, oh, that compliment was so good. I got to have all of it, like right now, and that way I'll feel better. That's crazy. You internalize it, and yeah, absolutely. So what we're talking about now is I'm going to pivot to something in a second. Give me just a second here. What we're talking about right now. I see a couple,
people I know here that joined. Thank you.
Okay. Can you give them a little? Can you give them a little love and shout out real quick? Okay, you guys don't drink the soap because she's gonna give you a compliment.
Soap, though. I think my mom is here, which she came at perfect time as I was just telling them about the thing I love. She said, a couple only folks who I did an interview with before for their podcast. And Brenda, hello, thank you for all the love and the hearts.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. This is what we're talking about. I've got a number of people here who are here to support you.
Hi,
that is amazing. I'm going to give a shout out to Live Life After Divorce. He'll be on the show soon, Warren, and others that are here. What I want to do is I would love to ask your mom questions about you, but that would just be mean to surprise you like that, because I've done that in other shows. I've done this in other shows, but I'm going to have to go back to your page, because listen, there's so many things. And I'm going to try my best not to take you all day here, but I want to talk about this, and then guess what? I am going to need to take a commercial break in a little bit. But before we do that, you had a posting that's dated here April 23rd. Let me look over my big screen. It's much better. I can face this way. It says, "Never apologize for being too much, too passionate, too strange, too curious, because no, you're not normal, and that's a blessing." So that's a posting that you have dated April 23rd. Now, bear with me here. I told you I've got tons of new equipment here and different things that I'm trying out on you today. In that posting, you had this comment in the comment section. You said, "Be you. There is no greater joy." Now, again, the posting that you highlighted, I should say that you posted, and that I'm highlighting here, it says, "Never apologize for being too much." Was there a moment in your life that you recognized, and I'm not asking your mom, I'm being safe today. Was there a moment that you recognized, you're getting so many hearts across the screen, that you recognized that there were some people that you were too much for?
Yes, I think so.
Don't be nice. Don't be nice.
There's a better question to be asked that I want to answer.
No, wait, hold on a second. Okay, this is what I want. This is what I want to do. I just asked you that question. Did you recognize that there were certain people that you were too much for? Let's just make it an easier. Let's just make it an easier subject. Let's name the people that were not good enough to hang around with you. The look on your face.
All right, let's get
the look on your face.
Hold on, I got my book here. No,
wait, the look on your face was like, I could, but I better not. There was this person. No, just kidding. And that job, I didn't like that, and they were not good enough for me.
I ironically do not have any individual in mind, but I think it speaks to like the bigger issue of.
You will have somebody in mind if we keep going.
I might.
Okay, go ahead.
What? You know,
don't mention no names. No, I don't want to get any bad. I don't get hate mail, and I don't want any. But go ahead.
No, me either. Me either.
So that can happen to a person, though. They can find themselves in situations, circumstances, a group of people, a family setting, a generational pattern of life, a family reunion where they sit back and look at it and go like, if I didn't know these people, I would not be hanging out with them.
Yep, that happens. That absolutely happens. And I think that's what's really hard is, and that goes back to setting boundaries. And also it's like family, right? So there's ties there where it's like, am I really going to set myself apart from the people I was born into? And then and having to realize that maybe that's the best thing for you. And it's not mean and it's not wrong to have to step away and to do that. Yeah. And I think not for everybody, but for a good amount, at least half, I'd say, of children that grew up in dysfunctional or abusive or neglectful families, they never got to be themselves. Again, it was shoved down and pressed down. And so doing things that were normal, like, laughing or talking or dancing or being silly was like, that's too much. Like you said, you just need to be this robot or fit in this box,
time out.
Right?
You got to repeat that, because I know my mail. I know who writes me. You got to repeat that, what you just said.
Okay.
Stuff that's normal, laughing, right? Crying, talking. Yeah. Speaking of,
so
just talking is like all of the normal stuff is like, oh, you got to cut that out. We don't really want to hear from you.
That's too much, right?
You got to hear. That's too much. Yeah.
These are all human things, and people have these to different degrees. And these are things that I think over generations were taught to be repressed. That's not appropriate to cry, especially if you're a man, right? Or to laugh, or to talk too much, or to, just be human, to dance, to look silly, to do funny things, to dress that way, to act that way, to do all that. That's too much. Stop being too much. Just stay in this box where I like you, And I think personally,
I like that. Stay in this box where I like you. You go outside of that, I don't like you. It's like, right.
It is. And the irony here is, if I still believed that I was too much, I would not be here today, because I've been told, and I'm still told often, that I talk a lot. And I've been told over time that I talk too much. And then
we've already had this discussion.
Remember? We have. Yeah.
Remember? In the show prep.
Sometimes like,
I'm insulted. I'm insulted for you, for the people that tell you that. And I told you to give me the list of names and I will take care of them for you. No, I didn't do that. Let me clarify that. Don't send no letters my way again.
I'm not sending you any names.
What did I tell you? I told you to show. You better, or if you don't talk, I'm gonna come after you. I want you to be yourself.
Underestimated how much I can talk.
Yes, you did. You did
because
tell me
I can talk.
You did tell me
But here's another part of the
I love it.
The sad part is that how long did I say nothing? And now that I have this voice and I am like, I didn't know that I'm good at talking, or that I'm good at talking about complex things. I don't know this, but when I speak, I get every time feedback like, oh my gosh, I was so engaged, or how can I hear more? Or like, that was, I've never understood that topic in that way. Or I just thought I was coming to learn about my client, but I learned about myself. Or I never saw it in that light. And that makes my heart so full and that makes me so happy. And now I talk all the time, and I think, for how long did I repress this because I was too much?
Absolutely. Listen, this is what I know for a fact. I know this much for a fact, that you are worth every ounce of word and syllable and vowel and energy. Every vowel that comes out of your mouth, every symbol that comes out of your mouth in the English language, I don't care if you spoke Portuguese, is backed up by intellectual thought that happens so fast in your head that it needs to come out. There are people that speak in such a way that it makes no sense what they're saying. There are people that speak in such a way you can't wait for them to hurry up and get to the point. There are a lot of people that talk all types of ways throughout the planet, and they all serve a purpose. But when you speak, you try to educate and uplift people, because you obviously care about human beings. Now, what I want to say is this. That's the most I've heard you be silent, except in the show prep, where I get to do 80% of the talking. So and I tortured you, because as I do most people, because you want to talk so bad, but I deliberately have to do that because our shows are live, and if you talk too much, I will know too much, and then now the live doesn't work because it'll be pre-scripted. But what I do need to do now is this. I need to turn to the screen because you make me laugh. Because you are a lawnmower. You are a verbal lawnmower. You will mow down anything if it's too high. You'll bring it right down to everybody's level so everybody can understand it. You will cut it down and bring it
I
right
like
to the
that.
level that everybody can understand it if people just leave you alone and let you do you. But anyhow, that's another. We'll save that for another part of the show. I'm going to get to Alex. Alex, hold on, let's say this. Alex Pamela 44 says, "This is your mom." I bet. I bet. You know, I had to say, I better not be on the list. No, really, it's okay. She says, but your mom says she better not be on that list of people. And
she is not on the list. Oh,
yeah,
Mom,
I just want to say, let's clarify that because I don't want to be in trouble with your mom. I've done enough of these shows, and so far, every mom that has been on, I'm still invited over for dinner. So, what I'm saying, your mom should invite me. Morris Therapy, I got Tamika, terrific. Tamika, beautiful Tamika says, you have something to say, and it's valuable, and so are you. I need to take a commercial break here, and we're going to upload this, and we're going to reboot this here. Thank you, everybody, for joining in so far. We're going to go to our second segment, and I have you all day. When I say all day, that means there's 3 tiles that go across Instagram posting. So we're going to the second tile now, or second segment, and if we have some more time, if you're up to it, as I told you before we did this, we may go to a third segment because there's so much I want to unearth in your postings. So we'll be right back, everybody, in just a little bit. Thank you for jumping on. I see that says Ala Rick just joined in. We're going to take a commercial break right now. Feel free to come right back with us in about 10, 15 minutes. I get to upload this, and we've got plenty more to talk about. Because I'm going to ask you to talk more about complex developmental trauma and generational stuff. We're going to get into some, hopefully, a little bit more deeper stuff than I normally do on Open Session podcast, because you're the person that I want to delve into these subjects with. I appreciate it, Stephanie. Thank you.
Yes.
We'll be right back, everybody, in just a little bit. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.